Welcome back, everybody, to the Uncommon Element. I am your host, Josh Beignet. And I am excited to bring you a guest today, okay? Steve Gamlin, my man, all right? He is the vision board master, from what I understand, but I am absolutely looking forward to digging more in depth into his story today, because realistically, he's got a lot of value to add. He's got some really cool life experiences and working in radio and now helping people in one-on-one coaching, really exceed that level that they ever thought was possible. And I know that there's a big thing out there where people struggle with figuring out their why and how to get there and really what the plan and the details are. So, Steve, I want to welcome you to the show and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Josh. Very happy to be part of this conversation and looking forward to it. I appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you too. So I wanted to kick this thing off, man, and ask you just one question here is, what do you think in your journey, as you've gone through your life, right, that has made the most impact on you, and you would maybe even call it your uncommon element?
I've got more lives than a cat, and one of my early stage stories was called "Some Days Your Phoenix Rides a Pogo Stick." So I've been in and out of the fire a lot. The moment that always comes to mind that created the biggest shift that is pretty unusual. In August of 2003, I'd recently at that point blown up my radio career. My first marriage ended in divorce, and I was $62,000 in debt at age 35 and had to crawl back home and live with family. So pretty safe to say I had flushed my entire life down the toilet. And on a Friday afternoon in August of 2003, on a humid as hell day, I had $3 left in my pocket, and I decided to take out my frustrations on a bucket of golf balls at a local driving range. Now, I suck as a golfer. So I went to the farthest tee box on the property, like against the netting to protect the trucking company next door. But I was underneath this whole lineup of steel towered power lines, and a thunderstorm came ripping through, and everybody but me ran.
Oh, gosh.
And I took my shoes off. I'm standing barefoot in the wet grass under power lines in the thunderstorm, held up the club, looked at the sky and said, I freaking dare you. Go ahead. Being sarcastic, not mad at God. Yeah. And I hit all my bucket, and the two buckets of guys who'd run from the storm and never came back. I'm like, well, they paid for them. I'll hit them. And when I got to my car, like an hour later, the sun came out and it stopped raining like that. And I just started laughing because my life just sucked at the time. And I had created it. I mean, I couldn't blame anybody but me. Mm-hmm. The next day, I'm on a phone call with a brand new life coach. I was his first client. I was his guinea pig for everything. And he said, how was your week? And I said, put down your pen and listen to this. And as funny as I could say it, in about 3 minutes, I told the story of that afternoon. Super self-deprecating because my self-talk used to be brutal, but it was funny. And when he stopped laughing, he said, are you this open and honest about your life with everybody? I said, yeah. You ever thought of being a motivational speaker or a stand-up comedian? I think you'd be great at both. I'd wanted to do both, plus be a radio DJ, plus write my own book since I was 11 years old. I said, yeah, but I have neither the confidence nor a freaking clue of how to pursue it. On his desk in the junk mail pile was a brochure from a local community college. 2 weeks later, they had a class called Intro to Stand-Up Comedy. And I was there. And a week later, I attended my first Toastmasters meeting, which he also recommended to learn how to craft and, work my storytelling and dial it in. Yeah. It's stand up for 7 years, been speaking for 18 so far, and friggin' love it. And it was that moment for $3 investment. Otherwise, we would not be here if it was not for that afternoon.
And what had you conquer that fear? Because most people would be afraid of dying in a lightning storm with basically being a self-conductor standing in water, right? That's kind of like an FU moment to the sky and saying, I dare you, right?
Yeah. So I call it my Lieutenant Dan moment. If you remember the movie Forrest Gump, when he and Forrest were out in the shrimp boat during the hurricane, and he said, Lieutenant Dan was mad and he's screaming at the storm. Is that all you got? Blow. Come on, take me out. And the next day, Forrest says, I think Lieutenant Dan made his peace with God. And I wasn't mad at God. And, God and I have a great relationship. We every time I hear thunder, I go, oh, he's laughing at something that I did or said. But it was in that moment where I'm just like, go ahead. And if you don't take me out, I'm here for something. And it literally the next day, an angel named Coach Dan asked me a question that changed my life.
There you go, man. That is very cool. So I've actually had some similar situations where I've been in those moments, in those realms where you completely let go of fear of dying and death, and you absolutely embrace it. And you're like, the only thing that I can deal with is the next step forward. So how do you make the next step forward for those people who are, dealing with fear right now, or dealing with, any type of anxiety that's pushing them maybe closer over that edge?
Yeah. The first thing is to stop listening to the motivational slogans that a lot of people in my industry love to say, like, fear is false evidence appearing real. That's all a bunch of steaming crap.
Yep.
In a paper bag on fire on your front porch.
Yep.
Put pen to paper. Turn off all things electronic that beep, buzz, vibrate, or otherwise distract you. Go sit somewhere quiet, preferably where you don't know anybody. Or, if you're in a warm weather place, go to the beach or something. Just go put pen to paper and be brutally honest with yourself. What am I afraid of right now? Like, legitimately, am I afraid of failing? Am I afraid of being embarrassed? Am I afraid that I'm not smart enough? Do I have imposter syndrome? And, we talk about that a lot,
Sure.
as entrepreneurs. And I told someone the other day, I said, look, I didn't just get the little plastic name badge that I wrote imposter on. I said, I wore the embroidered freaking shirt for about 15 years. My charismatic level of confidence that I possess now, which I absolutely love and treasure, it's not even old enough to drive a car yet, and it sure as hell ain't old enough to buy a beer. Because even in my first few years of speaking, I was very afraid that people would think I was a fraud. I was afraid I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't talented enough. My stories weren't good enough. I wasn't impactful enough, but I did it anyway. And I just kept showing up. And when I finally figured out what I was afraid of, I came up with a 3-step way to overcome fear. Number one, to know exactly what you're afraid of. It's like people that say, I'm afraid to fly. Then you say, well, why? You afraid to crash or die or heights? No. I mean, it's such a tight space. That's not fear of flying. That's claustrophobia. So know exactly what you're afraid of. Find the people who can guide you through it, who've already been through the fire and know the lesson and will reach a hand back to help you. And then step 3, trust them and just do it anyway. And I came up with those 3 steps standing at the edge of the 108th floor of the Stratosphere Hotel in Las Vegas before I jumped down to the pavement below, attached to a cable.
Yeah. I don't think he'd be talking to you otherwise. Yeah.
No. I mean, just aim for the beanbag, Steve. Okay. Can't see it. But in that moment, and the reason I overcame that was I had a camera on my wrist, a GoPro camera. It was recording. And she said, I'm going to count to 3 and you'll go. And in my head, I said, oh my God, I can't hesitate. Because there'll be an edit in the video and all my friends will think I cried like a little girl and wet my pants for 15 minutes and edited that part out. So I said, what am I afraid of? It's like, I was afraid to just jump. I would pause,
So 2 things in that, right? Like it's really interesting. We've taken this road, right? Because the self-awareness that you're talking about, right? Like of putting pen to paper and being real with who you are is really important. I really value that you said that. I think it's incredibly important for people to do that. They just don't understand, why should I write rather than just think about it. What's your take on that?
We are the ultimate deletion machines. Our brains, and I described myself recently as a rabbit hopped up on 5-hour energy with a bottle rocket up its butt running across the field. I mean, that's how my mind goes a good chunk of the day.
Sure.
And for me to just sit and try to think it out, we are, like I said, we're the ultimate creatures of deletion. An idea, dismiss it. An idea, dismiss it. An idea, dismiss it. And then when we get one that's not too threatening, we may marinate on that one for a little bit because it's not as bad as the deepest pain point, but it's something. And we may nudge ourselves a little bit. I'm all for getting it all out on paper, and you can burn it when you're done. It doesn't matter, shred it. I don't care. I don't ever need to see what my clients write down, but I want them to be brutally honest with themselves. And what I used to find out about myself, it was never as bad as I thought it was. I built up these huge Jersey barriers when all they were just pebbles in the road that I had to go on, over, or around,
Yeah.
or just sidestep them a little bit and get to where I was going. And most times I'll look back, I go, really? That held me up all these years? And it
It
wasn't
does.
as bad as I thought.
Yeah. It never is. It's just the fear of the outcome that I think most people holds most people back, and the fear of criticism. Like you labeled a whole bunch of things in there that would like roll up into these like fear of death, fear of criticism, fear of ill health, right? Like, if you read any of Napoleon Hill's stuff, you could just basically break it down into 6 basic fears that we all have, which I really helped me become a lot more self-aware of what I was afraid of, especially diving into my past. But you labeled it too, is it's really important that you figure out who you are and you're real with yourself.
Yeah.
Like you're real with like the things that you're proud of yourself, the things that you're not so proud of yourself, right? And what's your action plan to figure out what served you the best, and what do you need to remove from your life? Because people don't want to look in the mirror. They want to be honest with yourself. Like if you're struggling with something and you're stressed out about something, I promise you it's because you will not admit to yourself that that is who you are right now, and you haven't just gotten sick enough to stand outside in a thunder and lightning storm and hit a bunch of golf balls, okay, to fix it.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of people are more motivated by pain than they are by, the pleasure.
Yeah. And I was like that for a lot of times. And like I said, my confidence is relatively recent. I had just enough to take on all the challenges and growth that I took on.
Mhm.
But the last decade is where the switch got flipped, because I was brutally self-deprecating prior to that. Tore myself down all the time, found fault with myself. Nothing was good enough or perfect. I was just faking it enough to the world that the people kept hiring me and my business started to grow.
Mhm.
And then a friend of mine had me on his stage for 3 days straight. I did an hour each day. Third day, I just melted down in the most hysterically funny yet brutally self-deprecating rant about the dumbest stuff I'd ever done in my life. And I basically made the audience feel bad for me, and I got intervened upon afterward. And this person said, if I ever hear you talking about yourself like that again, you'll never be on one of my stages again. And I now describe it as that person's boot print kicked me harder than anyone had ever kicked me before, in a place my doctor only gets to see once a year. Somebody loved on me enough to say, brother, you're killing yourself here. We all want you to be the hero. We all need a hero. We're all in pain. We come to see you, and you do that? You disrespect the audience. You disrespect yourself. I go, they were laughing. He said, bro, there's a big difference between at you and with you. They pitied your ass. That was the day. That was 11 years ago. And I never forgot that. And as soon as I got that finally through my head, that's where that's the day the confidence actually started to grow. That's the day I actually was friendly to the person in my mirror. And I still am now. And I'll look in the mirror every day and I'll just find something I actually appreciate about myself.
Fuck yeah.
We've been on a weight loss journey, and I reached up for a light bulb a few months ago, and I looked at it, I go, holy crap, those are ribs. Good job. I'm like, it wasn't the usual ripple that used to be there. I'm like, oh my God, that's bone. Dude, you're rocking this. And now every morning at 5:30, I'm up downstairs working out, and it just feels so great to be friendly with that person in my mirror. It just cut me some slack.
Yeah. Yeah. It's important to give yourself grace. I think it's really important. Everybody's got their story. Your variety is different than everybody else's, right? Your perspective is different than everyone else's. I mean, you really got to like take that stuff into account and think of it in a way that, tearing yourself down in front of others. Self-deprecation is important, but to your point, right? There is a fine line where you can kind of start crossing over into that realm where it's unhealthy. And because I've been there, right? I think that dealing with the imposter syndrome, where you want to like have people like you, or you're concerned about the criticism that comes from, being on stage or being in front of people, or even just having close relationships with others, depending on what your history's been, right? Is you can have like this massive block in fear that ultimately is going to hold you back from everything that you truly want, including being honest with yourself. Because if you're afraid of criticism, how are you going to really be real with yourself? Because you are your worst critic.
Yeah. Yeah. And the sad part is when you're being self-deprecating, it's one thing, like some people say, oh, I just be a little self-deprecating, get a laugh and move on. It really sucks the life out of you when you're saying it, but you actually believe it. And I equate it to the circus clown who takes pratfalls and pies to the face all day long to the delight of the audience, and they love it. But then at the end of the night, when the lights are down and the tents are rolled up, the clown walks home alone crying in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was like. And again, all self-inflicted.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was telling me I was garbage. It was mostly me doing that, just thinking I wasn't worthy of the praise, the applause, the money, the whatever. And that will really sabotage your path if you do that long enough. And I thank everybody who's built me up over the years. I got people who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself.
Mm-hmm.
Just, well, if they do it, I'll get through one more speaking event, one more. Applause meant nothing if I didn't have it right in my head. If I didn't, like what I do now is get on stage and I say, somebody in this audience is in as much pain as I used to be. I need to find them and reach them and find their eyeballs. Even if they're sitting in the shadows, I got to aim my message everywhere. It's never rah, 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 buy my stuff. It's, I'm here for a purpose. And if I disrespect that, then I'm not being the person I know I need to be.
Yeah.
That's what feeds me now. Somebody needs me every day because they're sitting where I used to sit and pray for a hero, or not so much a hero, but pray for something to inspire me to get through one more day on this path.
Yeah. I could not agree with you more, but you have to love yourself first before you can truly accept love from others.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're always going to be chasing, grass is greener on the other side, or there are other places. And this version of contentment and freedom, like I'm wearing this freedom shirt, right? Like I always love freedom, but it's a state of mind. You can be free anywhere that you're at. It's just, it depends on how you think about yourself and you think about your contentment with, where you are today, giving yourself grace, but knowing that, especially if you want to, and if you're listening to this, like the likelihood is you want to grow. Like this is what this is all about, is, growth, and finding your own uncommon element in that is incredibly important, but it does not start until you can be humble enough and let your ego down enough to look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I am worthy. I'm the best version that I can be of myself today, and I can only try and get better, one more step at a time in every action that I take.
Yeah, exactly. Most of the prisons we're in, they're self-imposed. We walked in the door and slammed it behind us. And there's this saying out there that, 20 years old, we're worried about what everybody else thinks, and it goes on through. And then when we hit like 60, we realize nobody else ever actually gave us a thought. We did this to ourselves.
Yeah, damn it.
For decades.
Yeah.
Man, I'm 54, man. I'm 6 years from 60. And I learned that now.
And you
Nobody
still see
else
your ribs.
cares.
A lot of people can't say that in their 50s. Okay.
Yeah. Well, a big part of that was putting down the 94 proof bottle of rum that I was draining each week with a very tall one, but it was tall, rum and Coke every night. And 19 months ago, I just looked at it and said, nah, I've just invested too heavily in myself and I haven't touched a drop since. And a few months after that is when the ribs came through and I said, hello, old friends.
Yeah.
I've missed you.
Yeah. Project Zero, man. Project Zero, right? A lot of people have been on that path for a really long time. I give anybody a lot of credit who has been able to do that. Yourself, especially, man, you're ahead of me in terms of, where, just in terms of time, right? Of where I'm going. But it's inspiring because you start to see kind of the collective of people who have really got on board with that and like are supporting each other. And yeah, alcohol puts fat on you. If you don't like the way you look, here's one thing I recommend to everybody. And this is terrifying to me, is I went back into my budget and I looked at how much money I was actually spending at bars, restaurants, and like liquor stores. And I broke it out and it was like an exorbitant amount. Like over 35% of my actual after-tax income is going towards doing shit like that.
Wow.
Imagine what I could have done with that money in terms of investments or
Yeah.
in terms of clarity in my brain. Not to mention like the time and the wasted time that I'd utilized, you know, in those areas that I never really got true fulfillment out of in the first place. But that's been my experience. Some people who are very good at, you know, being social and utilizing those platforms get a lot out of them, right? Depends on what what you want your life to look like, and if alcohol serves you in that purpose. I'm not going to recommend that you do it, but good for you, because I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I got to give the rum credit because some of my craziest, edgiest original quotes and memes, a couple of them happened somewhere in the second, if I decided to have a second tall rum and coke, to where the next morning I'd get up and I'd look at social media and go, wow, that one's out there. I wonder if I should delete it. And then I'd go to do it and find out they were some of the most well received. But it wasn't enough for me to say that I need that for the creativity because I've gotten so much better as a speaker, as a coach.
Mhm.
And not like I was getting loaded every night. I was just getting a little bit numb, but it was getting to be for a couple of years every single night.
Yeah. And your
And that
tolerance
dulls it.
goes up. Yeah.
Oh, it just took so much away. But now I'm coming up with better material than ever, more focused than ever. I've hired people around me to fill in the gaps so I don't feel bad and get depressed and get down and get loaded thinking about how I can advance my business. I'm a hardcore visionary. Now I've got some hardcore integrators on my team. We're ready to rock this thing into the new year, which is going to be the best year in a while. I've had in the past 4 years a pandemic, which when you own two event-based businesses can be difficult, and 3 deaths in the past 4 years of people very, very significant to me. And I dulled it all. And I just kind of hit the pause button, hope the hell things would keep running. And it all just disintegrated. And now we've spent this whole year putting it all back together and get back out there better than before.
Good for you, man. I mean, that's a lot of adversity to handle in order to, you know, get to where you really truly trying to go.
Yeah.
You know, and the idea that you're not going to quit is incredibly important. So, you know, let me ask you this, man, is like, what's helped you the most in shifting this mindset? Like, if you were to talk to somebody new and you've obviously had coaching, you've had business coaching, you've been led, you've been humble enough to know that, you know, you need somebody else from a third party perspective to come in and look at your blind spots,
Yeah.
right? But what would you say to the people that are going through this right now or are dealing with their imposter syndrome? What's step one?
Figure out exactly where you want to go and who you want to be on the way. And I don't just mean material things.
Mhm.
You know, I work in 8 areas of life, and life work, pretty standard stuff. I've tweaked it to my programs. Goals, I believe, 1-year goals. And if they're longer term, just figure out how much in 1 year. This is where I encourage people to start. Your physical health, your emotional well-being, set goals for the emotions you want to feel most often. Your relationships, your core values that guide you, your faith and spirituality, if you believe in a higher power, your connection to the world in a real way. That one's taken a kick to the chops the last couple of years with the
Sure.
pandemic.
Mhm.
Your business and your money. You start to set goals and understand all 8 of these areas are working together, leaning on each other 24/7. Wouldn't it be a hell of an idea to actually have some say in where you're headed in each one of those? You improve one, they all have the potential to get better.
Mhm.
If you're sitting there wallowing, staring at one, watching that last $1,000 drain itself out of your business account without worrying about the others, you might be screwed for a little bit longer.
Just
But
don't
just
quit.
start to think, pen to paper. Yeah, don't quit. Think of the best version of yourself in a year
Yep.
in each of those and how they can all work together. It sounds like a lot, but once you realize if you take better care of your physical health, you eat better, you get enough sleep, and you stop abusing certain things, you get better sleep. You get better sleep, you're more effective at work. You're more effective at work, you can earn more money. You earn more money, you got more time for freedom and investments in the future. Your relationships get better. And if you do it all with good core values and ethics and spirituality that guide you, you never got to look over your shoulder because you're not screwing anybody over. And people
You're
want to
happy with
connect with
yourself.
you. Yeah.
You're living within integrity within yourself. That's why
Yeah.
core values are so important. They
Yep. I
really
got
are.
mine on my wall right upstairs over my desk. guide me every day. And they're also in my proposals to my clients that, just to let you know, here's how I'm approaching our relationship. If you can at the very least match these and embrace them, we can do business together.
Mm-hmm.
If not, that's okay. There's somebody else out there that's a better fit for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are my filter now for everything. Build best relationships, create a vivid vision with everybody, cultivate kindness with every conversation, and be fun as hell to work with. That's my favorite one.
That's awesome.
It's a must have.
I love it. I love it. You know, and it's funny because when you go through your evolution in life, what I found, and I'm curious on your take on this, is those things they're variables. They will transpire and they will morph and they will evolve into more and deeper clarity as you continue to follow them, and you'll become more finite, right? And I think what I found in having core values and really like starting to dial them in and dial them down to what I have today is, you know, there's 5 of them, you know, is really living in integrity within those. And they help guide me in every decision that I have. And most of them are around either personal accountability or relationships with other people. There's nothing that you're going to find in my core values that says $100 million. There's nothing in there that you're going to find in there that is going to tell you, like, have some metric base that I'm going to put my value on. Okay. A lot of them are around, and I say this to people, and it's so interesting when you start asking people what the motivation is behind stuff. Well, I want this fucking sports car because it makes me, you know, it makes me feel cool. Okay. That's your motivation. You want to feel cool. Yep. You want to feel that significance. It's not the sports car.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, and I'm the vision board guy. I mean, I created the program. Jack Canfield is my hero in the personal development world. The day I met him and had one conversation, asked me for a copy of my program. And then he talked about it on stage and promoted me to this audience.
That's cool.
And people say, did Jack offer you like $10 million for your program? I go, no, he probably sold it for 75 cents at the Jack Canfield yard sale, but I don't care. He was on my vision board and I had the balls to get up and talk to him and communicate as equals, both being speakers and coaches, have an amazing conversation and thank him for the inspiration that led me to being the type of speaker I am and creating this program. And that's all I wanted. And people ask now about my goals. You know, is it a Lamborghini, a yacht, and all this stuff? I go, no, I have a car on my vision board. And people go, what is it? I go, it's 2023 Honda CRV. And they go, really? Like, you don't want more prestige? I go, no. I own a 2010 Honda CRV and it's a badass vehicle. It's the best one I've ever owned. I just want one that doesn't have 250,000 miles on it. Because I'm not about the cool factor or the flash or all this. I just want dependable stuff. And I want all 8 areas of my life to be the best version of me there's ever been, because I want to give a ton back. My family and I have our own little nonprofit. It just celebrated its 10-year anniversary this year. It's been a 501c3 for 2 years.
Oh, okay.
But we just want to give and give and give. And we use it to educate people. And that's my fire. You want to see me fired up, man? Come watch me bake French bread loaves for a homeless shelter. A couple Sundays ago, I baked 47.5 inches of bread. I donated 44.5 inches because I eat 3 just to test it. It was good. But that's my joy, man. That's my flash. That's my fire. That's my impact. Those are the ripples I want to create. It's all about kindness and positivity and lifting people up and holding a hand out back down the mountain for those willing to do the work. I'm not here to show off for anybody. I'm here to be real and the least full of crap speaker you've ever seen set foot on a stage. I'll follow anybody. I'm not afraid of anybody now.
Yep.
Tony Robbins can introduce me on stage, and I'm going to thank him graciously for the opportunity. Tell the DJ to shut the damn music off, fog machine, shut it down, lasers off, house lights up. Going to wander out. I'm going to sit on the edge of the stage, dangle my feet, and have a conversation with 15,000 people about why I'm a speaker, because I had a friend who believed in me when I didn't. I followed his advice. That was 30 years ago, and I'm still going.
Damn.
Because he died 3 weeks after I followed his advice and got my first win by getting into radio.
Wow, man.
So that's why I'm a speaker. I want to be the guy who believes in other people, who gets them to take that one step towards that cool version of themselves that they don't believe they can do, and then just start their climb. That's who I want to be as a speaker from day one. And I've done hundreds of events, many for free, just to be able to find that person in the audience who needed it.
Yeah. It's impact over status.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think you're starting to hear that more out in the world is, impact over status, especially with what's happening these days with the downturns and all sorts of things that are going on. And I don't want to talk economics, but what I'd love to learn from you is, and I hope I have zero doubt that the audience will get value out of this, is, if you're going through something right now and you're dealing with, identity crisis, imposter syndrome, things, and you take Steve's advice here and you actually go and sit and write down, who you truly are, right? The good and the bad, be honest with yourself, right? What's next then, Steve? What do they do next?
More people need to stop believing that it's a snap of a finger fix.
Mm-hmm.
All of these things. We live in an instant gratification society right now. And it frustrates me to death to see that. And people say, oh, kids these days, who raised kids these days? My freaking generation did. So stop it. Mm-hmm. Stop thinking everything is instant. And it goes back to one of the earliest lessons I learned. I took this picture, and years ago, the story came from it. I treat life like an old wooden roller coaster, not the jet powered ones that go from 0 to 60 with the push of the button. Mm. You get in the little car at the bottom. Now, they don't hold a lot of people, so you want to make sure you surround yourself with good people. Mm-hmm. You look up at the top of that first hill. That's one of your goals. You want to be more confident? Great. What does that look like, feel like, sound like, even smell like in your life, being confident? Great. That's waiting for you at the top of the hill. You're here. And you go do one thing that makes you just a little bit closer to it. Click, 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 click. And it's monotonous, and it takes time, and you can't start halfway up, and you can't skip any steps. You got to do every single thing. You work out. I work out. We have to do every single lift. We have to do every single press, every single curl, every single lap, every single step. We have to do that every single day. We can't skip, and we can't expect the muscles without it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You go through that and do everything you got to do to get to where you want to go. Then over the top of that hill, hang on, because you're going to enjoy a ride you couldn't stop if you tried. And when you get to the end crying, I don't care if you're puking, you want to get back on, set another goal, get back in line. And here's what I encourage all my clients to do. When you get back in line, find somebody who looks as scared as you did your first time and ask them, is this your first time? Yeah. You're scared? You an imposter? Yeah. Come sit next to me. Let me tell you a story on the way up and why we can't just jump to the top of that first hill. You do that, man, we all ripple on. My clients have a hashtag, click, baby, click. Every time they have one step breakthrough, they're under instructions to tag me on social media. And my answer is always the same. What'd you do? And if we can get it on a video and I can watch their faces light up by that one little thing, off to the races, baby.
There you go. I like that. So is that like a visualization exercise that, they can do themselves basically, and you're like leading them through that, or? Okay.
Yeah, I explain the concept and get them to understand that life's not going to just turn around all at once. I didn't just drop 25 pounds all at once. It's taken me 1.5 years to do it. Mm-hmm. Slow, consistent work every single day, Monday through Friday, up at 5:30 in the morning, click. Get my glass of water, click. My supplements, click. Walk a mile, click. Gets the rust out of my hip and my lower back. Yeah. Resistance bands, Peloton cycle, set myself the goal for 2,400 miles. I got to show up every single day because I don't want to be that guy in December that looks it up and goes, oh man, okay, if I ride 17 hours a day every day for the rest of the year, I'll hit my goal.
Oh, beautiful. Nope. Yeah.
I ride 30 minutes a day and I've done it enough. I'm going to hit my goal of 2,400 the week between Christmas and New Year's. Timed it out just right.
Hell yeah.
In my very first ride, because we didn't get the bike till like January 23rd. So I got off to a late start of 200 miles per month average. I've had to make up the difference. 3 minutes into my first ride, I'm cramping up. I can't breathe. My face is all blotchy. I'm sweating and I'm a mess. And the instructor goes, all right, that's it for our warm up. And I gave her the double finger to the screen. I'm like, this is gonna suck. But I kept showing up. And I've had several hundred rides worth. And now I use the Peloton meditation sessions, the stretching classes, the strength building classes. And every day I show up and I do more and more. And this is the happiest, healthiest version of me there's ever been. But it's click every day. We've got to do the work. And I also have gratitude journal. Every morning I write down my 3 favorite moments from the previous day. Usually the weirder, the better. In less than a line each, I write down my gratitudes. That's how I start every day when I get to my desk. What's the best of yesterday and how can I do something like that again today?
Sure. Yeah. I'm a big proponent of training your subconscious mind. And, people who are listening to this, if you've been introduced to NLP or auto suggestion or, the other elements that are out there that can help you, right? But it doesn't start until you can really truly identify what you want, right?
Yeah.
It starts with who you are, then, what do you want, right? And what you're talking about, Steve, is basically, utilizing the vision board and visualization exercises in order to, get those clicks and continue on, with that mental health and mental clarity of where you're going. Right. I've got a vision board that's sitting right next to me that I've had for a very long time. Right. And there's a whole bunch of things on there that, there is a net worth piece on there, right, that I'm shooting for. But if you see anything else on there, it's things that create feelings of peace in my life, right?
Nice.
Because when I am not at peace, I like to break stuff, and I don't like breaking stuff anymore. I've done enough breaking. I'd rather build, right?
Yeah.
So can you, in regards to like NLP and visualization and everything like that, can you walk me through kind of your definition of it and how it really plays into getting what you want?
Yeah, I'm not a conscious or intentional NLP practitioner. I've had some people who are say, Steve, you're really good at this NLP stuff. So well, thanks. Are you certified? No, I'm not.
Fuck your certifications, no offense, but real life experience, no trumps that all day.
Exactly. They said, you're really good at it. They said, great. I don't need to get certified then because I saw an ad last week. I swear to God, I saw it on Facebook. I should have screen captured it and shared it with you. Get your NLP certification for $7.
Oh my goodness.
That is the most dangerous, irresponsible thing in the world.
That's why
everything
like CrossFitters, man. It's like the CrossFit guys that like went in and could do a 2-hour class and were all of a sudden certified.
Yeah.
Are orthopedic surgeons' best friends. I don't know if they're fucking paying them under the table, but goodness, that just reminded me of that.
Yeah.
And
all this stuff is so dangerous
yeah,
in the hands of people who don't get it. And that's why, there are speakers out there. There are people in the speaking industry and coaches and all this. Such a gigantic stick up their butt because I haven't invested in their programs to have them coach me to get to the next level. Yeah. And I get asked a lot, not as much anymore, but I used to, what qualifies you to teach this? Now, one of the other backgrounds here in my recording studio is a barn board wall that I built. Okay. And I've got a little chalkboard on there.
Yeah, right on.
And I wrote on it one day after being asked for the 12th time, what qualifies me? I just grabbed the chalk and I wrote, this guy lived it. And I drew an arrow and I put my head at the end of the arrow and took a selfie and I sent it to them, which is basically my way of saying hashtag up yours. Because I teach what I know. And that's the first thing I say to my clients. Look, I can only teach you what I've gone through. And I just happen to have taken my life from a big steaming pile of crap in the ashes to the happiest, most successful, and healthiest version of me. And I took notes along the way, a lot of notes. And that's all I talk about. And that's all I teach. So if you're good enough with that, we're good. But I also took the whole thing about visualization and spun it backwards because most people, oh, Steve, I went to a vision board party. How do people advertise vision board parties? We're going to have wine, cheese, crackers, scissors, glitter, glue sticks, magazines, poster boards. We're going to slap a bunch of pictures on and just like a roast freaking chicken commercial on a Saturday morning TV, set it and forget it. And people do that. And that's the end. My program has 10 steps. You don't even gather pictures till step 7. We completely have people dive into themselves, their lives, what they want, why they want it. And the first thing they say is why is never the right answer. We drill till we hit emotion, good emotion. It could be a little pain, but I'm not a therapist and I'm not having people regress. I'm just saying, let's get a little more real and a little more skin in the game, a little more emotionally connected so that, pebbles don't turn into Jersey barriers and block you, or, oh, I guess I didn't really want that. I want people to know who they are and who they need to be, and then what they want in all those areas of life we talked about. So I've completely remachined the process, which makes my program different and unique, but it's what worked for me.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, man.
I've got a t-shirt line that says on the back, a big stop sign with a finger pointing at it saying, "Friends don't let friends attend vision board parties."
I was thinking literally in my mind of how I would just sit in the parking lot in my car and like shelter down underneath it. Like
Yeah.
just so I could be in hiding. I could not imagine being in one of those. But to those of you that it works for, good for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's something.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely something. You know, I'm
Yep.
going to give you my little cheat sheet on this, Steve. And what I do is I set alarms inside of my phone that go off 5 times a day. And what I do is I learned this from T. Harv Eker in terms of the wealth success. You know, I have a millionaire mind. All right. So I repeat it out loud. Okay. I'm actually staring at my phone, which I can see my face in the background, looking at myself, touching my forehead, saying wealth success. I have a millionaire mind, touching my temple and saying wealth success. I have a millionaire mind. And then I go in and I read my 1-pager of all my goals, all my habits, and exactly where the fuck I'm going in my life. And I do that 5 times a day. Because what I'm doing is training my subconscious mind to look for and get over that flow state that makes me want to go back to the path that I had been set on that I'm trying to change. And a lot of people, you're 90% of what the decisions that you make on a daily basis are subconscious.
Yeah.
So if you think about it as an iceberg, okay, into your success, well, 90% of that is sitting underwater and you can't see.
Yep.
And the only person who's been able to figure it out by doing 30 plus years of research on some of the best individuals or most successful individuals in history is by utilizing that technique right there.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely love that, because you're not just going with the flow like so many people do. You're not just staring at your phone, staring at your shoes. What else can go wrong in my life? Or how can I just survive this day? Or all the phrases that people use in the mindset. 5 times a day, you are putting that into your head. You're rewiring yourself. Most of what we do, what we need to do is just develop better habits, create momentum.
Yep.
Be more positive, be more direct, be more intentional. You know, a huge breakthrough for me this past year was hearing Mel Robbins on Ed Milet's podcast talking about the 5-second rule and the power of the high five. Both, I mean, in the morning, ever since I heard that earlier this year.
Can you break that down? I love the 5-second rule. It's great. I think it's, but for those of you who don't know, I'd love for you to break it down.
Yeah. Mel was talking about how she would get up in the morning and look in the mirror and just see this imperfect person who was living an imperfect life, and then be lazy. And at night she would drink herself to numbness because things weren't going well at one point in her life. And she just had this idea, what if I just took 5 seconds and then just took action and did it, and didn't sit there and second guess or fall into, laziness or hit the snooze button. So what I do now in the morning, my wife Tina bought me a brand new alarm clock because the old one annoyed the crap out of her at 5:30 a.m. This clock does not even have a snooze button. So my hard, fast rule, Monday through Friday, turn it off within 5 beeps. And as soon as I turn it off, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Both feet have got to be touching the floor. And then I lean back, kiss my wife Tina on the cheek, and I go down the hall, get my shorts, my sneakers, my t-shirt, and I go downstairs and I start working out. 5 seconds, 5 seconds. I don't hit snooze. I don't have a snooze button anymore, but there's no excuse. I've got to take action. And even now throughout the day, if I find myself going, well, I should do this. I should do this. Wait a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll jump out of my chair and go do something, which is better than doing nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Or I'll call somebody, or I'll shoot a video for people. I love shooting personalized videos to people. I'll say, I'll come down here. I did this the other day. I had 5 videos that I cut for people. made all their day, but it was me upstairs waffling, wasting time on Facebook like I do a lot. And I just counted to 5 and I said, what am I going to do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, off my ass, down the stairs, down the other stairs, because my office is second floor, recording studios in the basement. Popped off 5 videos. Every single person responded with kindness. One responded with a check and a speaking opportunity in May. All because I counted to 5 and said, what I'm doing right now is not working. We need to change. Boom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Up and out.
Bingo.
Just do something.
Yeah. Yeah. I've learned this from special operators that they utilize this in the military in certain of, it's really the Army. Trying to get as many things done as you possibly can in the first minute of you waking up is actually pretty exciting when you start doing it.
Yeah.
And it's like, and really the objective is as soon as your feet hit the floor, like you're talking about, Steve, you basically set a minute timer and you try and get as many small activities done as possible. Like turn the shower on, make my bed, put the toothpaste on my toothbrush, start brushing my teeth, take a piss, whatever you got to do. Okay. But you're generally going to get between 3 and 6 activities done within that first minute. Once you start getting a lot faster, I've never heard of anybody get 7. I personally have only gotten to 5, but it's like, shit, man, like it creates a massive sense of urgency within your day, but not just like stress urgency, because at the end of the minute, you're actually realizing that you accomplished a few things in your brain and you're going, cool, man, now I'm ready to rock.
Yep.
And if you're trying to change those habits, that's a really good way to do it. But I do not recommend you do it for longer than 2 weeks. Track it in 2-week cycles, because otherwise you just get like, you're going to be frantic all over the place. And if you have a wife, you're probably going to piss her off. So I'm sure you can deal with that she can deal with that for 2 weeks, but not much longer. But it is a very unique life hack and little hack that people can put in place that has worked for me, and has really started my day off right. And if you set yourself up for success in those areas, you can actually even put your supplements next to your bed, put your water next to your bed. How much water did you drink right when you wake up? Right? Like it's super important to get you energized. Like all those little life hacks make a big difference over a compounding effect, like the click that you're talking about, over and over and over and over again. And then they just become habit. It's an afterthought. And what once was hard is just like, there you go. There's your new pathway that you're trying to, groove out in a field that no one's ever stepped foot in before. Guess what? Including yourself, because you're probably following paths that people tell you want to go down, or they want you to go down, or they want to hold you back. But in reality, like you're not going to where you want to go and where you're meant to go, because you're incapable of lowering your ego and allowing yourself to be real. Because that's a shit that uncommon people do. And if you're not willing to do it, you will not get there.
You don't want to be 85 years old sitting on your front porch going, who the hell's life did I live?
That's right.
Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I go for that? Now, I've gone for pretty much everything I ever wanted to do. Overall, I'm winning. There was a couple of years where I'm like, oh man, like I wouldn't admit it to anybody else, but what the hell did I do to my life? What the hell was I thinking? But now that the wins showed up and the direction showed up and the love of my life showed up when I got intentional with all these things and the actions I took and the work I did on myself, now people say, and you probably get this too, oh man, you're lucky. To which I go back to the hashtag up yours. Have you not been paying attention? You pitied me and you laughed at me for years, but now I'm winning. Maybe Steve's onto something here. So, the people who just keep living their lives for other people and trying to pattern themselves after somebody, but it's not really the person they want to be, but they just see the flash and the fire and they see all this, they see the cool stuff. And we know a lot of people who make a lot of money, who have beautiful, amazing cars and lives and homes and all this and that. We know because we're in the world, we're in the family. We know what it took to get there. They were willing to be the best versions of themselves. Risk it all, lose it all, get it all back, lose it again, get it all back again, even better every time. Too
They
many
just
people
don't.
on this planet will never take that first step, and they live by everybody else's rules and definitions. They live under a trash can their entire lives, and regret sucks.
You know, the biggest thing that I've found in my research behind all of the, and I've been researching fear, emotional intelligence, and for probably the better part of 5 years now.
Mhm.
And the biggest thing that holds people back from starting anything is the fact that somebody somewhere somehow told them that they would fail at it, and they're worried that that person is going to be right,
Yeah.
instead of worried about the daily actions and the stuff that you need to do to, one, get rid of that from your mentality, like you were talking about, right? Like, get rid of that mentality and that self-deprecation that is holding you back. Okay. And turn it around and figure out exactly who you want. And I'm going to tell you right now, in all honesty, I have used that stuff as fire. And I can tell you too that the people who have said certain things to me, like, don't know this specifically, but they have driven me to where I am today because of them. And I appreciate that.
Mm.
I actually appreciate it because, like, I take competition very fucking seriously.
Yeah.
And then I'm competing against you. And I don't win all the time. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I will fucking compete.
Yep. And even if we don't win, as long as we learn something, it's never a total loss. Somebody else can be like, I beat you, and they can taunt you. And you're like, yeah, mother effer, I just learned something. I just saw part of your weakness, and it's your raging ego, the fact that you just reacted that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I take a bit of a softer approach. I will succeed despite you, not to spite you, because I get way off my game if I'm so mad at somebody that goes up yours, I'm gonna freaking kill you the next time around. That gets me way off my game, and I proved that back in my radio career.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of what ended it early, because I was just this raging temper against this one a-hole who I let crawl around in my head, and I didn't need to, because I was already better than him. So I say, despite you, I will win, but I won't do it just to shove it in your face.
Oh, yeah.
You can stare at my ass running up that mountain ahead of you. I don't care. Kiss it right there.
Yeah.
I'll
You
succeed
wouldn't, yeah,
despite
trust
you.
me. Yeah, I wouldn't even have you on here if I didn't think you were humble enough, because we are the humble warriors. That is the community that we are,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
We fight through that strength. We find that strength through that struggle. Like,
Yep.
that's what it is. You can get, the only thing that matters is your self-satisfaction. And because if you get that right, you will attract the best relationships into your life that you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
But you have to, I've noticed this because I've been on the ego side, like real arrogant side.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've figured out how to balance. You need both. You can't succeed in life without both.
Yep.
You need
Agreed.
ego and humility. And if you don't have a good combination and a good balance between your logic and your emotions, like, you're going to really fuck up your life for a while until you figure that out.
Yep. Yep. And some people never do. And we see people like that. And I actually pity people who are just ego, 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 ego. And they're always competing. They're always performing. They're always, they have to win at everything. And I just look at it and go, man, does this race ever end? Does this person ever actually enjoy their lives? I mean, you see them and I asked somebody this one time, like, oh, I'm the best. I have the hottest, girlfriends and chicks and this and that. I'm like, and I just asked him one day, just to be funny. I go, man, how many times you want to give away half your shit? You've married the same woman, meaning the same type, 3 times. You got to be dominant. You got to be this, and you're in charge, and you're the. Where does it end? You're going to be a bitter old cranky piece of turd someday, wondering what the hell happened in your life. But oh, you won. Your ego kept you ahead of everybody else. Where are you now?
Those
You're
guys
old
are
and
willing to
miserable.
burn it all down. I mean, I think of this, and I know people who have gotten the pot of gold, and like, everybody's still got problems. Like doesn't matter if you've got the pot of gold, because once they do, they lose their purpose and then they're lost and they're drifting because they chase that the whole time rather than like we were talking about earlier, right? Is impact, right? Over status. Is what's your impact and how nice are you about it? Like, how humble are you in your life? Because, you know, if you're seeking significance and you're seeking like significance from an outward perspective, like you're going to be very disappointed in certain areas of your life. I can think of it this way, and this is my own personal experience with this. Is I led the country my sophomore year in points scored as a midfielder. The country.
Yeah.
And I did not receive All-American. I had 6 guys on my team that received All-American that year. I didn't. And I was so upset. I was so upset. So upset because I was actually banking all of my personal worth on that because I wanted to make somebody else proud that I was continuing to try and fight for. And that was one of the biggest letdowns I think I've ever had.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that like the next 2 years, I didn't go back and fucking let that hold me back. Cause I made All-American my junior and senior years.
Yeah.
But it taught me a lesson that I learned later on in my life when I reflected back on it. Is I was looking for that outside validation, which fed directly into my fear of criticism, that fucked with my head and put a chip on my shoulder. Yes. Did I succeed in those things because of the failure? Absolutely. It drove me, it helped drive me, and it helped me learn lessons. It helped me learn about the bureaucracy of how these things work. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Because because guys, like, it doesn't, if you guys and gals, if you're working hard, okay, your hard work is only going to go so far. You need other people around you, and you need to be able to play that game. You need to be able to play it. Otherwise you won't get to where you want to go.
Yep.
And the reason why you and I even know each other is because I was willing to invest back into myself, just like yourself, to get around people that could really help understand us.
Yeah.
And move the needle forward.
Yep. Yep. And it's like that in sports. It's like that. It's certainly like that in the speaking and coaching world. Believe me, we're just raging egomaniacs. And I intentionally, from day one as a speaker, I just wanted to be the coolest, nicest, most giving, loving, humble. I have an ego because I'm very good at what I do, and I know that, but I've worked very hard to get there, and I don't wield that power to be a jackass. And early on in my speaking career, I was at a National Speakers Association conference, and this one guy was standing there all king crap. I've got more than 500 standing ovations. And I sat there and I just shook my head. I'm like, lovely. I got one. And I cheated to get it just to prove I could do it. So I'm not impressed by your 500. And I was speaking at an event. I was added at the last minute. I don't think I was even on the sign or the brochure or nothing. It was just, and special guest. That was me. And I told a friend of mine, she was sitting down front. I said, I bet you $5 I can get a standing ovation tonight. She's like, you're the opening speaker. Nobody in here knows who the hell you are. And I said, $5. And she goes, okay. And I was doing my speech called Some Days Your Phoenix Rides a Pogo Stick, and talking about how we're all born with tail feathers. And when we're willing to risk, we sometimes fall back in the fire, they burn off. But when they grow back, because of your experience, they're stronger, they're brighter, and then you can fly higher the next time. So as I was wrapping it up, I go, I'd like y'all to please stand up for a moment. I want you to look over your right shoulder, look over your left shoulder. Now look down at your butt. How your tail feathers doing? Are they the ones you were born with because maybe you haven't been willing to risk it? Are they gone right now because you recently went through something, or are they back and beautiful and you're flying higher than ever? My name is Steve Gamlin. Thank you all very much. I hope you enjoy the rest of the event. And they start clapping while they are already standing. And thank you to everybody. I look down at the front row. There's my friend giving me the finger from the front row. I'm like, that's how you do it. You just deliver value because it's who you are, what you do, and why you do it. You don't do it for these jackass trophies and certificates and awards. Awards are great. I love it. I've won a fair amount of them as a speaker. It's all about the people in that audience. And I had a guy walk up to me in a grocery store once in the Captain Crunch aisle who passed me and he goes, "Hey man, you're that speaker, right?" And I turned around, we're the only two people in the aisle. I said, "Yes, sir, I'm a speaker. What do you remember?" He told me one of my stage stories, the picture that had been on the screen, the lesson, and how he applied it a week later and got himself a job. I spoke to 42 audiences for free, state of Mass, state of New Hampshire, for unemployment networking groups.
Cool.
People who were really down, and they'd bring in,
needed it.
skill sets, but then they'd bring me in a couple times a year for refire their souls.
Yeah.
And I said, when was that event? He says, well, hell, it was at least 3 years ago. Jesus, I never thought I'd see you again. And he held out his hand, and I wasn't even scheduled to be at that grocery store. I happened to be driving by between meetings, and I thought, I need breakfast bars. And that's why I was there. So these angels will show up to remind you why you do what you do and to stay really freaking humble about it and not get caught up in the glitz and the glamour. I honestly don't give a rat's ass. I don't like pomp and circumstance. I don't like award ceremonies. I want to get up and do my thing and just be real with people. And I love that.
Yep. Yep. You don't think about the results, and you just think about just keep going day by day. What you described earlier in terms of tail feathers, man, that is where you find your uncommon elements. 100%. Because, the courage to even do that and face yourself is the biggest test you're ever going to face. And it doesn't stop. And it keeps going because you're going to thirst for more. And once you figure out, like, it's like a drug, like growth is like a drug. Personal growth is like a drug. It is. Yep. It's addicting as fuck. And I love it.
Yep.
And I love it because it is 100% the space that you can go to, that you can control what you can control.
Yep.
Nobody else.
Yep.
And you can go find your golden nuggets everywhere that you can try. Just make sure that you're not inundating yourself with too much information from people that are pulling you in all sorts of different directions.
Yeah.
It's really, really important. It's really fucking important because yes, you can get inundated with social media I turned off so much thing. Like I barely look at my social right now.
No.
I have to time block it into my day in certain areas just to be responsible to get back to certain people. And it's just like, other than that, man, I'm working on me.
Yeah. Yeah. And we got to be super careful of the latest, greatest, the newest flavor, the latest program. Steve, it's revolutionary. I used to spend time with a friend back in my BNI networking days. Every month she would call, Steve, did you see this new book that just came out? Oh, this is the one that's going to change my life and business forever. I go, more than the one from last month and the month before that and the month before that. And
we all know people who are willing to take advice and never take action. And that's the thing. And so if you're listening to this and you keep running around, nobody fucking cares if you read 52 books in a year. Nobody does. I don't ever think of that in terms of like that being a great idea. Okay. Because it's like, all right, cool. I've been deploying this thing called read 5 books a year for 3 years. And it's sped up my growth so much faster because I go and implement.
Yep.
I take the lessons. I find the fucking best books that you could possibly find in certain areas that I really want to train myself on. And then I just hammer it into my head. It's like practice. If you're practicing it, like imagine if you practiced golf on Monday, basketball on Tuesday, lacrosse on Wednesday, swimming on Thursday, and you're something else on Friday. Okay. And you just kept repeating that. Okay. Over and over and over again. Okay. You're going to win. But if you don't have the same 5 every single week, all right, and you're trying everything under the sun, like the shiny object syndrome and squirrel shit that I got to deal with new people that I coach all the time, right? Is, that's not where you're going. That's not where you're trying to go. Here's your reminder, chill the fuck out. Like it's time. All right. Like we said, we're going in this direction. Let's go there. Cool. So stay focused, guys. Steve, I really want to say thank you for coming on here today. And
My
I really
pleasure.
appreciate you dropping all the knowledge that you've got. Anything in terms of, where people can find you, and actually let me back up here for just one section. What would you like to leave the audience with today that you feel like would really impact them?
It's a lesson I learned by observing one of my grandfathers. He never said the words. He was a very simple man. He was a lifelong Finnish carpenter and a family man. I would watch him leave at least one situation a day better than he found it, whether it was for himself, for his family, for a neighbor, for a stranger. This man left plus signs in his wake throughout his entire life, and he was extremely well loved and well respected. So I encourage everybody, leave at least one situation a day better than you found it. And you're going to probably find out, whether it's when you get back in your car, get back at home, or you're marinating on your day at the end of the day, the person who got the most out of it is probably going to be you. So go into every day with that mindset. And when you look around somewhere, just ask yourself, what can I do right now to leave this better? And it doesn't have to cost anything. I rescue shopping carts at the grocery store all the time. I call it shopping cart rodeo, and I don't care. I don't get torqued up about the fact that they're still there.
I'm like, cool, it's extra cardio.
Well, exactly. Because I used to do laps around, after when I was working out at the gym, before I started working out at home, I do laps around the parking lot. I used to pick up trash and rescue carriages, and people were like, son of a bitch, somebody left it out there, lazy piece of crap. I go, I just got 350 extra steps. Dude, rock on. I'm okay. And I rescued one once. There's this woman, probably in her 70s. My best guess is cancer in late stage. I mean, she could barely walk. She was using the carriage to be able to stand.
Mm.
And I was 2 cars away, and I watched her put her couple bags in the car. And from a distance, I just said, excuse me, ma'am, would you like me to return that for you? And she turned around and she had this very weak little smile. She goes, oh, that would be such a big help. Thank you. And I just took it, and I made sure she got in her car safe and walked away. And I always look up and I go, I was supposed to be right there. I will never complain. Now I was having a bad day that day. Things were not going well.
Mm.
That moment shifted me. I got home different and better than the version of me who left. So leave at least one situation a day better than you find it, and you'll win for it.
That's awesome. That's awesome advice. I love that. I love that. So Steve, where can people find you, my man?
Nice and easy, brand new website. Very excited about it.
Cool.
SteveGamlin.com, Gamlin, SteveGamlin.com.
Easy enough. I will include that in the show notes for everybody. And until next time, guys, I want to thank you so much for hopping on here. Keep finding, keep grinding. All right. You're going to find that uncommon element. Keep being uncommon. I'll see you there.